The message came at midnight, Earth time. Admiral Taeyong-su stood alone on the observation deck of the TSS Indomitable, watching the stars spin slowly past the viewport. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too many battles. Behind him, the door hissed open, and Captain Hana Sujin walked in, with a datapad in her hand. Her face was pale. "Admiral," she said quietly. "You need to see this." Tay took the pad and read the words on the screen. His expression did not change, but his grip tightened until his knuckles turned white. The message was from the Galactic Concil, a group of 12 ancient alien species who had ruled most of the known galaxy for thousands of years. Humanity had only been traveling among the stars for 300 years. To the Council, they were children, insects, nothing. The message was simple. It was an ultimatum. Humanity had 90 days to dismantle all military forces. They would surrender their colonies in the Outer Rim. They would accept protectorate status under Council control. If they refused, the Council would take corrective action. Tay read the message twice. Then he laughed. It was not a happy sound. "They think we are like the others," he said softly. "They think we will break." Hana stood beside him and looked out at the stars. "The Veth broke," she said. "The Morani broke. Every young species the Council has threatened has surrendered. They have never lost. They have never faced humans," Tay replied. Far away, in the crystal halls of the Celestial Spire, the Council was celebrating. High Arbiter Vorlon of the Neth species stood before the assembled representatives and smiled with his thin mouth. The Neth were ancient beings with gray skin and large black eyes. They had crushed dozens of species over the centuries. They knew how this would end. "The humans will surrender within 30 days, Vorlon announced. "They are emotional creatures. They fear death. When they see our armada approaching, they will beg for mercy." The other Council members nodded in agreement. The Morani representative, a large creature covered in brown fur, rumbled with amusement. "I have studied their history," he said. "They spent most of it fighting each other over small pieces of land. They are primitive and violent. They will turn on each other when fear takes hold." None of them understood what they had just done. None of them knew that humanity's violent history was not a weakness. It was training. On Earth, Supreme Chancellor Wu Daewon called an emergency session of the Terran Senate. The Great Chamber was filled with representatives from every human colony across the stars. They had all seen the ultimatum. They had all read the demands. Wu stood at the central podium. He was an old man with a calm face and steady hands. He had spent his life building peace between human factions. He had hoped to extend that peace to the galaxy. Now he understood that some beings only respected strength. "The Council believes we are weak," he said, his voice carrying through the silent chamber. "They believe we will kneel because others have knelt before us. They see our desire for peace and call it fear." He paused and looked around at the faces of his people. "They are wrong," the chamber erupted. "Not in panic. Not in fear." The senators rose to their feet with anger burning in their eyes. They shouted and stamped their feet. The sound echoed like thunder. The vote was held 1 hour later. It was unanimous. Humanity would not surrender. Humanity would not bow. Humanity would fight. Admiral Tay received the news aboard the Indomitable. He nodded slowly and turned to Hana. "Send a message to the Council," he said. "Keep it simple." The message that reached the Celestial Spire was only 6 words long. "Come and take it, if able." Vorlon read the message and felt something strange. It took him a moment to recognize the feeling. It was doubt. No species had ever responded to a Council ultimatum with defiance. Not once in 5,000 years. The humans were either insane, or they knew something the Council did not. He pushed the feeling aside. It did not matter. The humans would learn their place. Across human space, the military began to move. Ships that had been stationed at quiet outposts received new orders. Factories that made consumer goods switched to producing weapons. Young men and women lined up at recruitment centers, ready to serve. Lieutenant Hyun Sung-ho was one of the first to volunteer. He was 24 years old with a quick smile and steady nerves. He had grown up on a mining colony in the Outer Rim, the same colonies the Council wanted to take. His family still lived there. His little sister was 12 years old. They want to make us slaves, he told his commanding officer. I would rather die. His officer, a woman named Major Bora Jinay, nodded grimly. She was a veteran of the frontier wars, a conflict between human colonies that had ended just 20 years ago. She knew what war meant. She knew the cost. You might get your wish, she said. But before you die, you are going to make them pay for every drop of blood. In the intelligence division, Officer Unji-wan was already working. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a brilliant mind. Her job was to know the enemy better than they knew themselves. She had spent years studying the Council species, learning their weaknesses, their fears, their blind spots. They have never fought a real war, she reported to Admiral Tay. Not in centuries. They threaten and the enemy surrenders. They have forgotten what it means to face someone who fights back. Tay nodded. Then we will remind them. The 90 days passed quickly. The Council expected to receive a surrender. Instead, they received silence. Their spies reported that the humans were not disbanding their military. They were strengthening it. Vorlon felt that strange doubt again. He ignored it and gave the order. The combined armada of the Galactic Council began to move. 8,000 warships from 12 species. The greatest military force ever assembled in the galaxy. They believed they were going to discipline a young and foolish species. They did not know they were walking into the deadliest trap in galactic history. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Tay watched the tactical display showing the approaching armada. Hana stood beside him, her face calm. They are coming, she said. Tay smiled. It was the smile of a predator watching its prey walk closer. Good, he said. Let them come. The combined armada moved through space like a swarm of angry insects. 8,000 warships, each one carrying weapons that could burn cities to ash. Fleet Commander Arketh of the Neth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Judgment, and watched the stars pass by. He was old even by Neth standards, with skin like cracked stone and eyes that held no warmth. He had commanded fleets for 200 years. He had never lost a battle. He did not expect to lose this one. How long until we reach human space? He asked. His navigation officer checked the instruments. 3 standard cycles, Commander. We will enter the Varus system first. Our scouts report it is lightly defended. Arketh nodded. The Varus system was on the edge of human territory. It had 2 small colonies and a mining station. An easy target. He would crush it quickly and move on to the next system. Within a month, Earth itself would burn, far ahead of the Armada. Hidden in the shadow of a dead moon, Intelligence Officer Ji-won watched the enemy approach. Her ship was small and dark. Designed to avoid detection, she had been in position for weeks, waiting and watching. I count 8,200 vessels, she reported through a secure channel. Mostly Neth and Marani designs. Heavy armor, slow turning speed. They are traveling in a standard formation. No defensive screens. On the Indomitable, Admiral Tay received her report and smiled. The Council was arrogant. They moved through space as if they owned it, with no fear of ambush. They had forgotten what it meant to be hunted. They are confident, Hana observed. They are fools, Tay replied. Confidence is good. Overconfidence is death. He called a meeting of his commanders. They gathered in the war room of the Indomitable. Men and women who had fought in the bloodiest battles of human history. Vice Admiral Kwan Hosuk was there, a large man with a scarred face and steady hands. Commodore Nari Yuri sat beside him, small and quiet, with eyes that missed nothing. She commanded the Ghost Squadron, 12 stealth frigates that could appear and disappear like shadows. The enemy outnumbers us 4-1, Tay began. They have bigger ships and heavier weapons. If we meet them in open battle, we will lose. Kwan crossed his arms. Then we do not meet them in open battle. Exactly. Tay activated the holographic display. The Varus system appeared, with its 2 planets and wide asteroid belt. This is where we will kill them. He outlined the plan. It was simple but deadly. Lieutenant Hyun Sung-ho and his covert operations team had already seeded the asteroid belt with millions of mines. They were small and nearly invisible, waiting to be activated. Commodore Nari's Ghost Squadron would hide among the rocks, ready to strike at the enemy's communication ships. Without communications, They cannot coordinate, Tay explained. 8,000 ships become 8,000 separate targets. Confused and blind, Nari nodded slowly. We hit their eyes first, then their ears, then their throat, and then, Tay said, we hit everything else. The commanders understood. This was not going to be a battle. It was going to be a slaughter. In the Varus system, the colonists were being evacuated. Transport ships carried families away from their homes, away from the war that was coming. A young girl named Kim So-yeon pressed her face against the viewport as her colony grew smaller behind her. She was only 8 years old, but she understood that something terrible was happening. Will we come back? She asked her mother. Her mother held her close. Yes, she said. The soldiers will protect us. We will come back. She did not know if it was true. She only knew that she had to believe it. Lieutenant Hyun Sung-ho watched the transports leave from his position in the asteroid belt. His team had finished planting the last mines just hours ago. Now they waited in their tiny ship, hidden among the rocks like a spider in its web. The Armada will be here soon, his navigator said. Are you afraid? Hyun thought about his sister, safe on a transport heading for Earth. He thought about his parents, who had worked the mines their whole lives just to give their children a better future. He thought about what the Council wanted to do to all of them. No, he said. I am angry. I am angry. The combined Armada entered the Varus system on the third day. Commander Arketh stood on his bridge and looked at the tactical display. He saw the 2 small planets. He saw the asteroid belt. He saw nothing else. Where are the human ships? He demanded. His sensor officer checked the readings twice. I detect nothing, Commander. The system appears to be abandoned. Arketh felt a flicker of annoyance. He had expected at least some resistance. A few ships to destroy, a colony to burn. Instead, the humans had fled like cowards. Pathetic, he muttered. They run before we even arrive. This will be easier than I thought. He ordered the Armada to proceed toward the inner planets. 8,000 ships moved forward in perfect formation, confident and unstoppable. They did not see the Ghost Squadron watching from the shadows. They did not detect the mines floating silently among the asteroids. They did not notice the small ships hiding behind every rock, waiting for the signal. On the Indomitable, Admiral Tay watched the enemy move deeper into the trap. His finger hovered over the command console. Beside him, Hannah counted down the seconds. They are in position, she said quietly. Tay waited. He let the enemy move a little farther, a little deeper. He wanted them completely surrounded. He wanted no escape. Commander Arketh was giving orders to begin scanning the inner planets when his communication officer suddenly looked up with fear in his eyes. Commander, I am detecting energy signatures in the asteroid belt. Thousands of them. They just appeared out of nowhere. Arketh turned to the viewport. For a moment, he saw nothing. Then the darkness came alive with light. The mines activated all at once. Millions of small explosions lit up the asteroid belt like a second sun. Ships on the edges of the Armada vanished in balls of fire. Others lost engines, weapons, and shields. The beautiful formation broke apart as captains panicked and tried to escape. And then, the Ghost Squadron struck. Commodore Nari's voice came over the communication channel, calm and cold. All units, weapons free. 12 stealth frigates appeared from nowhere and opened fire on the communication relay ships. In seconds, the Armada was blind and deaf. Captains screamed orders that no one could hear. Ships crashed into each other as they tried to turn around. In the chaos, no one saw the Terran main fleet dropping out of hyperspace behind them. 2,000 warships, led by the Indomitable, with every weapon charged and ready. Admiral Tay gave the order, fire. The battle began at 0347 Terran Standard Time. 2,000 human warships opened fire at the same moment. Plasma lances cut through the darkness like burning swords. Missiles streaked toward their targets in waves of fire and death. The sound of explosions was silent in space. But inside the Council ships, the screaming was deafening. Commander Arketh gripped his command chair as the eternal judgment shook under enemy fire. Alarms screamed from every console. Officers shouted reports that he could barely hear. Shields failing on the port side. We have lost contact with the 3rd Division. Enemy ships behind us. Repeat, enemy ships behind us. Arketh tried to give orders, but no one could hear him. The communication system was dead. His fleet was scattered across the asteroid field, burning and dying. He had walked into a trap so perfect that he could not even understand how it had happened. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Tay watched the battle with calm eyes. The tactical display showed enemy ships winking out one by one, red dots vanishing from the screen like dying stars. Concentrate fire on their command ships, he ordered. Kill the heads, and the body will follow. Captain Hana Sujin coordinated the attack with cold efficiency. She had trained for this her entire life. Every simulation, every drill, every sleepless night had led to this moment, and now the enemy was dying exactly as she had planned. Vice Admiral Kwan Ho-sok commanded the left flank. His battle cruisers carved through the Morani formations like knives through paper. The Morani were large and strong, evolved from predators on their homeworld, but they had never faced human weapons. Their shields flickered and died under the concentrated plasma fire. Their ships broke apart in silence. Push them toward the asteroid field, Kwan ordered. Let the mines finish them. Panicked Morani captains tried to escape the slaughter by flying into the asteroid belt. They found only more death. The mines Hyun Sung-ho had planted waited for them, hidden among the rocks. Ship after ship vanished in sudden bursts of light. On the other side of the battlefield, Commodore Nari Yuri hunted the remaining communication ships. Her ghost squadron moved through the chaos like shadows, appearing just long enough to fire their weapons before vanishing again. The Council forces could not fight what they could not see. Ghost 3, target the Neth cruiser on bearing 7-7. Nari commanded. Copy. Ghost led. Engaging now. The cruiser never saw the attack coming. One moment it was trying to restore communications. The next moment it was a ball of expanding fire. Nari allowed herself a small smile. That is 12 communication ships, destroyed. They are completely blind now. Deep in the asteroid belt, Lieutenant Hyun Sung-ho and his team watched the battle from their hidden position. They had done their job. The mines were working perfectly. Now they could only wait and watch as the armada died. Look at them run, his navigator whispered. They came here thinking they would crush us. Now they cannot even find the exit. Hyun nodded grimly. He felt no joy in watching the enemy die. War was never something to celebrate, but he thought of his sister, safe on Earth, and he knew that every enemy ship they destroyed was one less threat to her future. On the Eternal Judgment, Commander Arketh finally understood that he was going to die. His flagship was surrounded by human battle cruisers. His shields were gone. His weapons were failing. Half his crew was dead. All ships, retreat, he screamed into the dead communication system. Fall back, fall back. No one heard him. His fleet was dying in silence. A human voice crackled through his bridge speakers. Someone had hacked into his internal systems. The voice was calm and cold. Commander Arketh of the Neth Combined Armada. This is Admiral Tae Yong-soo of the Terran Third Fleet. Your forces are destroyed. Your communication is gone. You have no escape. Surrender now and your surviving crews will be treated with honor. Continue fighting, and you will all die. Arketh stared at the speakers in disbelief. Surrender? The Neth had never surrendered. Not once in 5,000 years of history. He would rather die than accept such shame. Burn in the void, human, he spat. We will never kneel to your kind. There was a pause. Then the cold voice spoke again. Very well. The Indomitable fired its main cannon. A beam of pure plasma struck the Eternal Judgment directly in the center of the hull. The ancient warship broke in half like a dry twig. Commander Arketh had 1 second to feel the cold of space before everything ended. The death of their fleet commander broke the remaining council ships. Captains who had never known defeat suddenly found themselves alone, confused, and terrified. Some tried to fight. They died quickly. Others tried to flee. Most of them died too. Major Bora Jinne led the marine boarding action on the Morani carrier Endless Dominion. The carrier was damaged but still functional, a prize worth taking. Her squad breached the hull and moved through the corridors with weapons ready. The Morani crew tried to resist. They were large creatures, strong, and fierce. But they had never faced human soldiers in close combat. They did not understand that humans had been fighting and killing in small spaces for thousands of years. They did not know about trenches and bunkers and street fighting. Bora's squad moved through the carrier like death itself, room by room, corridor by corridor. The Marani fell before them like grain before the scythe. Bridge secured, Bora reported 2 hours later. Her armor was covered in alien blood. Her breathing was steady. The endless dominion is ours. By the time the sun rose over the nearest planet, the battle was over. The combined armada of the Galactic Concil, the greatest military force in the galaxy, had been destroyed in less than 12 hours. Over 4,000 ships were gone. The survivors, barely 2,000 vessels, fled in scattered groups, their captains too shocked to think clearly. Admiral Tay stood on the observation deck of the Indomitable and watched the debris field. Pieces of alien ships floated in the darkness, twisted metal and frozen bodies. He felt no pride. He felt only a cold determination. "This is just the beginning," he said quietly. Hana stood beside him. "The Council will be terrified. They have never lost like this." "Good," Tay replied. "Let them be afraid. Let them feel what our people felt when they received that ultimatum. Let them know that humanity does not forget and does not forgive." He turned away from the viewport and walked back to the bridge. There was more work to do. The Council had started this war, but humanity would finish it. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you woke the sleeping giant. The news of the Armada's destruction reached the Celestial Spire 3 days later. High Arbiter Vorlon read the report with trembling hands. 4,000 ships destroyed. Commander Arketh dead. The survivors scattered across the void like frightened animals. It was impossible. It could not be true, but it was true. The humans had done the impossible. They had defeated the combined might of 12 ancient species in a single battle. And now they were coming for revenge. "We must prepare defenses," the Marani representative stammered. His brown fur was matted with nervous sweat. "We must gather our remaining forces and protect our worlds." "With what?" Vorlon snapped. "We sent our best ships to crush the humans. Now those ships are floating debris. We have nothing left." The council chamber fell into terrified silence. For the first time in 5,000 years, the rulers of the galaxy did not know what to do. On Earth, Supreme Chancellor Wu Day-1 addressed the Terran people. His image appeared on screens across every human colony, from the busy streets of New Sol to the quiet farms of the Mars settlements. Billions of people watched and listened. "The council thought we would surrender," Wu said. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with cold fire. "They thought we were weak because we wanted peace. They sent their armada to enslave us, to make our children serve their masters. They believed we would break." He paused and looked directly into the camera. "They were wrong. And now they will learn the price of their arrogance. The Terran Empire does not wait for the enemy to strike again. We strike first. We strike hard. We strike until the threat is ended forever." Operation Retribution began the next morning. Admiral Tay's fleet crossed into Council space with 2,500 warships. They did not sneak or hide. They came with weapons blazing, broadcasting their presence to anyone who would listen. The message was clear. We are here. We are coming. And we are not going to stop. The Neth homeworld was the first target. It was an ancient planet covered in crystal towers and golden cities. The Neth had ruled from here for thousands of years. Looking down on the rest of the galaxy with contempt, Admiral Tay did not destroy it. He could have. His ships carried enough firepower to burn the planet to ash. But that was not the human way. Instead, he used precision strikes. His ships targeted military bases, government buildings, and communication centers. They destroyed weapons but not homes. They killed soldiers, but not children. Within 3 weeks, the Neth government collapsed. The leaders who had voted for the ultimatum were captured alive. The galaxy watched in amazement. The humans could have taken revenge. They could have killed billions. Instead, they showed mercy. It was something the Council had never done. General Araminji led the ground campaign on the Veth colony world of Krishar. The Veth were strange beings with long limbs and huge eyes. They had powerful psychic abilities that allowed them to control the minds of weaker species. For centuries, they had used this power to enslave others, but Terran scientists had studied the Veth for years. They understood how the psychic powers worked. They had developed neural dampening technology that blocked the mental attacks completely. When the Terran soldiers landed on Krishar, the Veth tried to use their powers. Nothing happened. The human minds were protected. The Veth, who had never learned to fight without their mental weapons, did not know what to do. "Surrender now," General Era announced through her translator device. "We do not want to kill you, but we will if you force us." The Veth surrendered within days. Their leaders could not believe what had happened. For the first time in their history, they had been defeated, and the beings who defeated them were not even natural psychics. "How?" one Veth commander asked as he was led away in restraints. "How did you resist our power?" Era looked at him with cold eyes. "We are human," she said simply. "We learn. We adapt. We overcome. That is what we do." Fleet Captain Jun Wushik commanded the liberation of the Outer Rim. His task force swept through the systems that the Council had wanted to take from humanity. But he did not stop there. He continued into Council territory, freeing species that had been enslaved for centuries. The Krill were the first. They were small beings with blue skin and gentle eyes. The Council had conquered them 300 years ago, and forced them to work in the mines of their own planet. When Jun's ships arrived, they thought it was just another master coming to take what they wanted. Instead, the humans gave them food, medicine, weapons to defend themselves, and freedom. "We do not want your world," Jun told the Krill leaders. "We want allies, partners, friends." The Council ruled through fear. "We will lead through respect." Word spread quickly. Other enslaved species heard about what the humans were doing. Some were afraid. They had been told that humans were monsters, savage beasts who would destroy everything they touched. But the rumors did not match the reality. One by one, the minor species of the galaxy began to defect. They sent messages to the Terran Empire, asking for protection. They turned against their council masters. A rebellion that had been unthinkable just months ago now spread like wildfire. Intelligence Officer Un Ji-won intercepted communications from the remaining council members. What she heard made her smile. "They speak of us like we are a force of nature," she reported to Admiral Tay. "They do not understand how we fight. They do not understand why we show mercy. They are completely lost." Tay nodded. "Good. A confused enemy makes mistakes, and their biggest mistake was threatening us in the first place." On the planet of Kreshar, the freed Veth slaves celebrated in the streets. On a dozen other worlds, beings who had lived in fear for generations looked up at the stars with hope for the first time. The old order was falling. Something new was being born. Major Bora Jinne stood on the bridge of the captured carrier Endless Dominion, now flying under Terran colors. She watched the Council's former territory spread out before her on the tactical display. So many worlds. So many people. So much work to be done. "Do you think we can really change things?" her second-in-command asked. Bora thought about the question. She had seen the worst of humanity in the wars she had fought, but she had also seen the best. She had seen soldiers risk their lives to save civilians. She had seen medics treat enemy wounded. She had seen mercy and honor even in the darkest moments. "Yes," she said finally. "I think we can. Because that is what humans do. We burn things down, and then we build something better from the ashes." The Terran Empire was no longer just fighting a war. It was building a future. The war lasted 6 months. In that time, the Terran Empire conquered more territory than any species in galactic history. They did not do it with cruelty. They did it with something far more powerful. Justice. Every world they took, they freed. Every species they defeated, they treated with dignity. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. The Council fought back at first. They scraped together what remained of their fleets and tried to stop the human advance. It did not work. Every battle ended the same way. Human tactics were too clever. Human weapons were too powerful. Human soldiers were too determined. By the 6th month, only 3 Council species were still fighting. The rest had surrendered or defected. The great coalition that had ruled the galaxy for 5,000 years was broken beyond repair. High Arbiter Vorlan looked out the window of his chamber in the celestial spire. The crystal towers that had once symbolized council power now seemed small and fragile. Human ships patrolled the space around the station. They could destroy it with a single command. Everyone knew it. "It is over," he said quietly. The other council members did not argue. They were too tired, too broken, too afraid. They had spent their lives believing they were the masters of all they surveyed. Now they understood how wrong they had been. "We must surrender," the last Morani representative said. His voice was hollow. "There is no other choice. If we continue fighting, our species will be destroyed. The humans have shown that they can be merciful. Perhaps they will spare us." Vorlan nodded slowly. He had been the one who sent the ultimatum. He had been the one who demanded humanity's submission. Now, he would be the one to beg for peace. The irony was not lost on him. The surrender ceremony took place aboard the celestial spire itself. Admiral Tae Yong-soo arrived with a small escort. He wore his dress uniform, simple and black, with no medals or decorations. Behind him came Supreme Chancellor Wu Dae-won and Captain Hana Soo-jin. They walked through the crystal halls that had once intimidated so many species. They were not intimidated. The remaining council members waited in the great chamber. They had once sat on elevated thrones, looking down at the representatives of lesser species. Now those thrones were empty. They stood in a line like prisoners waiting for judgment. Vorlan stepped forward. He moved slowly, his ancient body bent with exhaustion and shame. When he reached Admiral Tae, he lowered himself to his knees. "On behalf of the Galactic Council," he said, his voice cracking, "I formally surrender to the Terran Empire. We accept whatever terms you demand. We submit to your authority. We beg for mercy." The chamber was silent. Everyone watched Admiral Tae, waiting for his response. Would he be cruel? Would he demand revenge for the ultimatum that had started everything? Tae looked at the kneeling alien for a long moment. His face showed nothing. Then he spoke. "Stand up." Vorlan looked up in confusion. "What?" I said. "Stand up." Tae's voice was firm but not angry. "We did not come here to humiliate you. We came here to end a war and build a peace." Chancellor Wu stepped forward. He was not a soldier. He was a diplomat, a builder of bridges. This was his moment. "High Arbiter Vorlan," he said, "the Terran Empire does not seek revenge. We do not want slaves or subjects. We want partners." He gestured, and holographic images appeared around the chamber. They showed the new structure that humanity had designed. Not an empire with humans at the top. Something different. Something better. "We will dismantle the Galactic Council as it exists today," Wu continued. "In its place, we will build the Galactic Assembly. Every species, from the greatest to the smallest, will have a voice. Every world will have representation. No one will rule through fear. We will govern through consent." The council members stared at the holographic images with wide eyes. They had expected conquest. They had expected punishment. They had not expected this. "Why?" Vorlan asked. His voice was barely a whisper. "We threatened you. We tried to enslave you. We sent our armies to crush your worlds. Why would you show us mercy?" Admiral Tae answered. His voice was cold but not cruel. "Because we are not you," he said. "You looked at the galaxy and saw resources to exploit, species to control, worlds to conquer. We look at the galaxy and see neighbors, potential friends, beings who deserve the same freedom we demanded for ourselves." He stepped closer to Vorlan, looking directly into the alien's large black eyes. "But understand this. We offer mercy because we choose to. If you threaten humanity again, if you harm our people or our allies, there will be no second chance. We have shown you what we can do when we are angry. Do not make us show you again." Vorlan nodded slowly. He understood. The humans were not weak because they chose peace. They were strong enough to choose peace even when they could have chosen destruction. The Treaty of Sol was signed 1 month later. The old council was dissolved. The Galactic Assembly took its place. Representatives from over 100 species gathered in a new hall built on neutral ground. For the first time in history, The smallest species sat equal to the largest. The voice of the weak mattered as much as the voice of the strong. Commander Han Yuri-Na was appointed as the first human ambassador to the Galactic Assembly. She was young for such an important position, but she had proven herself during the war. She understood both strength and compassion. On the day the assembly opened, she stood at the central podium and looked out at the gathered representatives. Some still feared humanity, some hated them, but all respected them. "We stand here today, not as conquerors," she said, "but as partners. The old ways are finished. The rule of fear is over. From this day forward, we build something new together, a galaxy where every species can live in peace and dignity, a future worthy of our children." The chamber erupted in applause. Not from everyone. Some sat in bitter silence, but most understood that this was something precious, something that had never existed before. In the back of the chamber, Admiral Tae Yong-soo watched quietly. Hana stood beside him. "Do you think it will last?" she asked. Tae considered the question. He had fought many wars. He knew how fragile peace could be, but he also knew what humanity had achieved. They had taken the most powerful coalition in the galaxy and transformed it into something better. "I think it will," he said finally. "Not because we are perfect, we are not, but because we have learned something important. The strongest weapon is not a fleet or an army. It is an idea, the idea that every being matters. That freedom is worth fighting for. That mercy is not weakness." He smiled slightly. "They gave us an ultimatum. They expected us to surrender. Instead, we changed the galaxy." Hana nodded. "Humanity has always been like that. We adapt, we overcome, we survive." "Yes," Tae agreed. "And now, we lead." Far away, on a small colony world in the Outer Rim, the young girl named Kim So-yeon looked up at the stars. The war was over. Her family was home. The future was bright with possibility. She did not know the names of the admirals and generals who had fought for her freedom. She did not understand politics or diplomacy, but she knew one thing: she was human. And humans never surrendered.